Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimo. So today I'm bringing to you an updated meta-analysis for the February 2020 format, and oh my god, do we have a lot to talk about, because we had two absolutely massive events conclude this past weekend. We had the 3v3 Las Vegas YCS taking place. Big shout out to all of you guys who got the opportunity to meet, take pictures, sign cards with. You were all incredibly awesome. And then we also had YCS Utrecht as well taking place over in Europe the same weekend. One of the biggest YCSs ever. I think it was like over 2,000 players. It was crazy, and we have so much to dissect and go into because we have a lot of decks to show you guys. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. I want to go ahead and start things off with the YCS Utrecht, as a matter of fact, because it did conclude first, obviously, and it's going to have, I think, in the neighborhood of like 22 to 2,300 players. I think the cap was like 2,300, and it was just shy of 22, and here is your top 64 breakdown for that event. Look at the amount of diversity in this top cut. You've got SPYRAL, you've got Salamangreat, you've got Altergeist, there's Dinosaur, there's Shaddoll invoked, there's even like a significant chunk of decks in here that they didn't even classify and were in the other category, and one of those we're going to be talking about here in a moment. But when the dust settled, there was only one winner, and funny enough, Salamangreat actually took first place. This is something that I don't think is really too shocking, but I think it's really cool to see that with Mirage Stalio banned, Salamangreat's actually still looking to be like one of the best decks of the format, and here is that list for you guys to look at. Now, it is Salamangreat, so you're going to see a lot of things you've noticed. One of the nice spicy tech cards, though, was the card Prohibit Snake. Now, this is neat. It kind of functions like a hand trap of sorts, but you're going to be using it in battle, and what's nice about it is that when your Salamangreat, or excuse me, when your Cyberse monster, I think specifically battles, you're able to discard the Prohibit Snake, and then it bounces the monster that the Cyberse monster battled with at the end of the damage step. So this is kind of neat because it's able to clear stuff like El Shaddoll Winda. It's able to clear stuff like Sleeper, as a matter of fact, because it doesn't target or destroy. It does put Sleeper back in the hand, but it clears it off the field, so that's pretty good. It's also easy to make sure that they can't destroy it, because if it's a Salamangreat monster, you could banish Baylings to protect it, so that's pretty cool. There's just a lot of really neat interactions for why this card was very powerful. There were actually some people at YCS Las Vegas looking for this card as well, and it honestly did him well because he did end up taking first place. Maybe we'll continue to see this trend with Salamangreat moving forward. I mean, it is searchable off of Lady Debug. It's also searchable off Sidenet Mining, since both of them do search Cyberse monsters, and Prohibit Snake happens to be a Cyberse typing. So we'll just have to see, but congratulations to the first place winner. Now for second place, oh boy, if you guys didn't see the live stream, you guys are definitely missing out, because for second place, we have 3-Axis Dragon Link. This is the name that Konami dubbed the deck, and if you've seen Shunping Zhu's first place UDS Rokket Dragon Link deck profile, we're going to be covering that a little bit later on, because he did manage to make top 8 at the 3v3. It kind of operates on a similar level like that, except it takes advantage of Cherubini and just the level 3 engine, being able to just get any 2 level 3s to go into Cherubini and turbo into the Rockets and end on very similar boards that Shunping Zhu was able to demonstrate from his deck. This deck is just so cool with all the different cards that it incorporated. It's a 60 card deck, for crying out loud, but at the same time, there's just so many different paths and avenues this deck has, because you're playing so many different cards and extenders to allow you to keep playing. And yes, it does have some similar weaknesses to a lot of the combo decks, but I think it's just so cool to see this level of ingenuity be rewarded so highly at second place of one of the biggest European YCSs ever. So congratulations to him, because this is absolutely incredible. Then coming in third place, we had Scrap SPYRAL. This isn't really anything too surprising. Obviously, SPYRAL had the highest representation in Top Cut, and when you look at this, it's pretty straightforward, clean cut and dry. SPYRAL pretty much the deck to beat, at least at the moment, unless the meta continues to shift, but it's been the deck to beat ever since Magician Souls came out and we got the new ban list, right? So at this point, if you're not going into an event preparing for SPYRAL, you definitely should be, because that deck is everywhere. And then for fourth place, we had Shaddoll Invoked, and this is a really cool deck that has gotten tons of support from the Shaddoll structure deck. When Wendy does a lot of really good things for the deck, and being able to end on these incredibly oppressive boards that contain cards like El Shaddoll Winda and Invoked Kaliga. Even just Winda in itself is very difficult for a lot of the top meta decks to beat, and with so much consistency added because of the invoked half of the deck is still going to continue to be one of the biggest dominating forces of this format, at least until we get some type of ban list or until the Master Rule 5 applies in April. But definitely be aware of this deck because this deck is terrifying. And then wrapping up YCS Utrecht's deck list, there was actually a couple of surprising decks in here that I wanted to showcase. The first being Orcus. Yeah, Orcus managing to make the top 64 here. I think it went all the way to top 16, and what's cool about it is that it's incorporating Magician's Souls. Now this is kind of interesting because it's a monster you can get on the board, which allows you, when you're playing the scrap cards, I think you just need another monster on the field to be able to do like the full scrap combo if you open with Scrap Recycler. But what's interesting is that it allows you to just further boost the consistency of your deck because you can play 3 copies of Orchestrated Return, which we see here, and if you draw multiple copies in tandem with like Magician's Souls, not only can you activate one of them, but you don't have any dead copies because you can just pitch them away and draw more cards off your Magician's Souls. So there's a lot of really cool interactions that Magician's Souls provides to the deck. It's also dark, so you've got synergy with the Lure of Darkness. Just a really nice consistency booster, and it's cool to see that Orcus managed to make it to top 16, even though it's kind of been just going and descending down that ladder rather rapidly. And then another deck that not a lot of people weren't expecting was Thunder Dragon. Not only one Thunder Dragon made top 64, 3 of them did. That's so crazy. And this one, I think it ended off in either top 64 or top 32. Top 32 might have been the highest that Thunder went. But when it comes to Thunder Dragon, this version that I'm actually going to be showcasing for you guys actually opted to go second, because going first, it's actually not like the worst, but going second, it actually can put a lot of pressure on the opponent just because the Thunder Dragon cards are really big and there's a lot of really good things that they have going for them. So Thunder Dragon, not really out of it yet. I wouldn't exactly consider them like meta, but there are some people that are still pushing this deck to try to see if there's any hope for it. So at best, it's a rogue contender and something that you should at least be mindful of. But that's going to bring us on to the Team YCS taking place in Las Vegas. Now, I think this is in the neighborhood of about 15 to 1600 players, because I think there was like 500 plus-ish teams, and it was one of the most fun events I've ever had the opportunity to compete in. Again, big shout outs to all of you guys for whether you were my opponent or just someone I got to meet, take a picture with, or sign a card for. I'm truly grateful for that, but this event was incredibly fun. And I want to give you guys the breakdown of the top 48 because it's the top 16 teams for how they break it down. So there was a 48 deck pie chart essentially. So on that pie chart, there is 18 Spiral, so over a third of the decks were Spiral. I think 5 of them were Scrap Spiral. Then there was 7 Invoked Shaddoll, 7 Dinosaur, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Then there was like 4 Salamangreat, 4 of the Rokket Dragon Link deck that I alluded to earlier, 3 Lunalight, 2 Altergeist, and then I think there's like a Guru, an Infernoid, which we will also talk about, and then I think there's a Block Dragon Burning Abyss in there as well, and I'm pretty sure that's everything within that top 48. So let's go ahead and talk about first place. First place, one of the decks, remember, there's going to be 3 first place deck lists, so I'm going to try to go through them a little bit quickly. First was Shaddoll Invoked. Again, talked about it previously with Utrecht, very strong deck. Wind is a very difficult card for a lot of decks to deal with. Construct's also still incredible in 2020. And then for the teammates, they were both on True King Dinosaur. Now, I think one player was playing a 40 card list and the other was playing 42, but the lists were almost identical. And playing Dinosaur is really interesting right now because now that Lightning Storm is a card, there's just so many good going second options that you can just blind second, let your opponent set up a board, easily break it with cards like Lightning Storm, Evenly Match, even Mind Control, then either set up a board of your own, like you can make True King of all Calamities and True King Dinosaur very easily, or even just setting up Ultimate Conducti Tyranno and like a Dolka seems pretty good, or you just outright kill them because dinosaurs are so easily equipped to be able to deal 8,000 damage and OTK with ease. So really solid call. A lot of people have been hyping up Dinosaur at the moment just because it seems like they can just really deal with decks going second rather easily, but we'll have to see if that trend continues. Obviously, we saw some players playing it in Utrecht as well, but definitely looking like a solid contender for the format. Then moving on to the second place deck list. First off, shout outs to these guys because our team was actually supposed to play against them, I think in like round 4 or 5, and then we ended up getting repaired, or like we weren't supposed to actually be playing each other, even though we were sat across from each other at some point. But in any case, I think it's really cool to see that they went all the way and got second place. So first up, there was a a SPYRAL list on there. It's SPYRAL, it's pretty cut and dry, nothing really too crazy in that deck. Again, we have a Dinosaur list, so again, we have Dinosaur not only in first place, but also in second place, so just further proving the power of this deck. And then we have Infernoid. I have Herman just coming off his third place at the Pasadena Regional not too long ago. I think had over 700 players, now getting second place at the 3v3 YCS in Las Vegas. Infernoid, a pretty interesting meta call. I mean, it's got a lot of really good matchups against any of your graveyard reliant decks. The deck has a lot of power with cards like Void Feast. Void Imagination is just absurd and just has a lot of really neat things going for it. Interesting rogue choice for sure, and it's cool to see that he saw a lot of success with it. And then wrapping up this video, I wanted to talk about, again, the Rokket Dragon Link deck, because Shunping Zhu and his teammates were all playing the exact same deck card for card, and they managed to make the top 8. So not only did Shunping get first place at the UDS in Tulsa a couple weeks ago, but now he just got top 8 with it again. I'm really curious to see if this deck takes off, because there were some other pro players in attendance that were piloting this deck, even though their teammates were not. And when it comes down to it, Shunping's argument, and you can listen to his full breakdown in my deck profile that I just uploaded to my channel yesterday. I'll have a link on the screen or down in the description for you guys to check that out. But when it comes to it, Shunping's argument is that when you're playing this deck versus SPYRAL, it puts out just as powerful of a board with much less commitment of resources, so that way it's a lot easier that if the board does get broken, that you have the ability to still fight back. And that's a pretty solid argument, and again, maybe people are going to pick up on that, or SPYRAL is still just showing its dominance, so maybe people are going to continue to stay in that camp. I'm not sure, but that's one of the reasons why I love Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that it's always an ever dynamic game. It's so fluid, the meta can change at any moment. And I mean, look, going into March, we've got so much going on. UDS Bogota this weekend for anyone who's competing in that. We've got the YCS in Brazil in the middle of March. We've got YCS Charlotte, which I think is the last event of Master Rule 4. And honestly, it's going to be crazy because Dual Overload will be legal for that event. So we'll just have to see what happens, but it's going to be a good time. And I think a lot of people are really excited to play Yu-Gi-Oh! So guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap up the video. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like the video as always. Subscribe to the channel for more amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. And if you found this video helpful, consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. Because just by showing your support in any way that you can, you're investing in my ability to continue bringing you amazing Yu-Gi-Oh! Content. So thanks so much again, and we'll see you next time.